What's going on? So we back with another Wolfpack Epic Grudge Racing series. We're going to be in Spa this coming up week, and today's topic is going to be setups. So I got these awesome drivers, all different walks of life, all different types of experiences, all different levels of racing, and they're going to share some of their experiences and their knowledge with you, hopefully enabling you to make better decisions, not to waste money, to be more efficient with your buys, your life, and the way you approach sim racing. How are you all doing today?
Doing well.
Doing good.
Carlos, I know Carlos was talking about young Josh Begami. How you doing? Are you actually racing while you talking to us? Or you
No.
What you got going? Are you trying to get a
I'm
little
sitting
extra
in the
practice?
seat.
Okay. So Carlos was talking earlier about certain people being disappointing, and I think sometimes we could be disappointed ourselves by decisions we make when we make purchases. We want to get into something, and we might not necessarily understand all the research and the information that we do. So we make a buy, and the next thing you know, the experience that we have is not what we expected. And then we're kind of turned off from any sport or hobby that you want to do. So I'm going to throw the ball to Brian first. When it comes to knowing whether you should move from console to like having a full rig setup, what are the things that you are trying to consider to make that crossover?
Sure. I think number one is if you're having fun on a console with a controller or a cheap wheel, you're really enjoying it and you're able to perform where you think you should be. If you want to go to the next step and you want to keep having fun, then you should invest in a PC and a setup that's a little more solid for you, for yourself. Doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're already having fun with it, for me, every time I've upgraded, it's just increased that enjoyment for me.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're not having fun on a controller, don't grab a wheel. If you're not having fun on a wheel, don't upgrade the wheel. That's what I'd say.
Got you. Okay. All right. And Carlos, and what about you? Because I know at some point, did you just jump off into an entire rig, or did you start on console like Xbox, PlayStation first?
Well, I started racing these guys right here.
Oh shit! God damn, we're talking about okay, good deal.
Yeah, real
all
life racing and all that. And then I got into sim a long time ago when they had these Formula One simulators.
Okay.
And that's where ADVR came from, guys in the UK, and it was ADVR UK T2. And we won like 6 world championships doing that. And then like 15, 20 years go by, and you love racing, I've always been a Formula One fan. And then I started with PlayStation, and then proof, I set up my rig. But as far as setting up a computer rig, I can only talk to you about that because that's all I know. That's what I do.
All right.
It's always very important to look, let's say, Formula One. Like a lot of people knock down F1 22 with EA Sports. There's a lot of simulators that they are more like the real deal. But it's a very fun game. And always look at the specifications on the back. Let's say the box. Let's say if you do i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM recommended, 1080 card. Always double that, because like Brian was saying, I mean, for you to enjoy it, you don't want no lag, especially in racing, where everything is got to be so precise. And if you have lag, if your frame rate is not there, it's not going to be enjoyable at all. And if you really want to go for it, get a VR headset, get the rig, any wheel will do. I mean, I got the Fanatec setup and all that because, I mean, I enjoy racing. I love racing. It's a passion of mine. I don't get the time that I should put into it to get at the level of Brian and some of you guys, but I enjoy it. Even if I'm in the back, I enjoy it.
Right. So you don't know anything else but the rig, because that's what you jumped into. So you jumped off the beach right into the marina trench. Pretty much that's what you did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's cool. So what about Racer X210? What about you? What did you do? Did you make a transition? Did you automatically start with wheel and pedals, or did you start from a D-pad and work your way up? What, and if you did, what made you make that transition?
Well, for me, I started with the D-pad for most racing simulators that I played, like Gran Turismo, Forza. And like the D-pad was enjoyable to an extent, but then I was like, I really want to push myself and become faster and better. And then that's when I decided, you know what, let me upgrade to a wheel and let me see how that feels. And with the wheel, it gives you, I say, a more realistic feel, not completely, but it gives you that extra sense of like, this is how I can control the car if I was actually in it. Compared
Gotcha.
to you're on a D-pad, you know, you're only using your thumb. You can't just drive with just
No,
your thumb.
you got no feedback. Got you.
So, you know, it's kind of hard to get that actual racing feedback. But with the wheel, when you're able to adjust the calibrations, the force feedback, you know, it helps you find that extra grip, that extra speed you can carry through a corner without, you know, losing that much time.
Okay. All right. Wildcat, what about you? What are you doing, or what are you thinking about doing? And if so, why are you thinking about doing it?
Right now, still doing this D-pad,
Okay.
even though I want to just sometimes throw it and the console out the window and just let it all go.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no,
Okay.
it's many reasons. Because I mean, racing, it was mine and my dad bonding. That was our
Got
thing.
you.
We would go to church on Sunday, and then we'd sit around, watch probably the last half of a NASCAR race, because that's when things start getting interesting. And
Right.
then turn right around and start watching drag racing for the rest of the day.
Right.
And so for me with racing, it especially in gaming, I started with a D-pad when I might have been 9 years old when I first played a racing game on a D-pad, and
Right.
that's where I've always been. So
Okay.
to a point, some of these guys, they're like, how the hell are you this fast on a D-pad? I kind of take it as a compliment, but at the same point, it comes with a lot of experience and understanding how to stay steady and consistent, and sometimes also having the right controller. Because, and I can tell you for a fact, we have two Xboxes in this house. One's in the bedroom, and then there's mine that's out in the main area.
Right.
My original controller, that's hooked to the bedroom Xbox. I use an Elite Series 2
Right.
for the extra customizing to actually do anything gaming related, whether it's shooter games, racing, whatever I'm doing,
Okay.
because it feels a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more precise, kind of like a wheel. Like when I hit some of these corners, just like with a force feedback, you can tell by the level of how hard the controller is vibrating,
Okay.
just how much that rear end is about to want to kick out on you. So you know, hey, I got to back off here, or do I need to tighten up this turn? Do I need to take a different apex into this corner? Figure out. It gives you a little bit of playroom, not as much as a wheel would,
Of
but
course.
over the last, I'm gonna say 6 months, probably halfway through the actual F1 season, I
Yeah.
started contemplating wanting to get a wheel.
Okay.
Why? Because I like the level I'm at, but I also want to get faster.
Okay. So let me say this. So it would seem that I think we can all agree that you're only going to be as fast. Your ceiling is a D-pad. If you have a D-pad, you're only going to be able to get so fast. Plus, you're relying on feedback through basically what I call a rumble pack, which cannot be anywhere near as accurate as you would through a wheel setup. So that's where I'm going to throw this to Stinky, because Stinky seems to, definitely have a very good friendly approach when it comes to racing. So Stinky, in your opinion, if you started from a D-pad, could you let me know when you made that switch and how you hopped over, and then what really changed for you in your racing life when that happened?
So like Wildcat, I probably started racing, like playing racing games since I was little, because my brothers would do it. So like we were all into racing from the get-go. So I played on a D-pad until probably the end of high school. But I did do some do arcades. So I would go to arcades and do some of those. There's like different kinds of serious racing rigs there. And they weren't good. They're not as, like, we have better rigs in our houses now than those.
Right.
But yeah, so I was always into it. And yeah, you can do a lot with the D-pad. It's not like the D-pad's not an issue. You'll hit that ceiling, is what Wildcat said. You'll eventually hit it. And once you do, that's when you should, if you have the money, you should invest in trying to get something, even something cheap. Like Logitech has some pretty cheap stuff, and
Okay.
even that can outperform a D-pad because it's just there's nothing comparable to having such precise movement. And I think movement on the track is more important than a lot of the other stuff. And I guess braking and gas, yeah. So like having that, being able to feather a lot better than on a D-pad is noticeable. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm not trying to call you out, Young Big Gamby, but you are the youngest in this bunch. A lot of these guys are talking about coming from an era that you currently are in right now. I think out of everybody here, except for Carlos, maybe myself, and you have done, Stinky, have you done any racing, like real car racing or anything like that, motorsports, real racing? Okay, so then and Joshua by far is taking it the furthest, even at his young age. Why are you playing in a rig and not on Xbox and PlayStation like we were when we was coming up? I just kind of think it's embellishing. But tell us why. Why is it that you are at this level already, currently this young?
So I got my wheel. I got a PC. I got a rig, all for my for 2018 Christmas. And okay. I played racing games before that. I played F1 2015, and I used the gamepad for that. And I was alright at it. And then when I got the wheel, I played on it so much. I loved it so much. So it was good and enjoyable, and it works perfectly fine. Like Stinky was saying, Logitech can even out perform the gamepad, which is what I have. I have a Logitech, and it works perfectly fine. I've had it for over 3 years. There's been no issues whatsoever. Very reliable, and you can do so many more things that you can't do on controllers. You can bind different pedals, different buttons on the wheel, and it's very good to have the extra paddles and stuff that you can use.
All right, so let me ask you this: are you purely, because I know your stance and your father's philosophy on sim racing compared to actually track racing, all the 6 senses. Lewis Hamilton himself don't like to do a lot of sim racing. Some drivers just like the simulator is like not for me. So do you really have the rig as it started out to just enjoy gaming racing, or you actually had the rig as far as a fundamental tool to help you actually on the track and kart?
Well, I guess I can use it both ways, because there's some people that have made mods, so I can go to the tracks that I need to go to. Let's say I'm going to a track next weekend and I've never been there. People have like made mods so that I can do that on the simulator. So you don't necessarily get the feel of it because I don't have motion, which you can get, but it's really expensive. You can get motion and stuff, and so you can feel the whole seat. But I can go on the simulator, learn the track, and then when I get there, I'm not like a newbie and I'm not looking around, where am I going? I understand. I know exactly where I'm going. I know my braking points and stuff, because they've got the cards and they've got the track. So I think racing on simulators can help in some situations, but I've had other situations where it was hampering my driving style. So I had to stop. I had to slow down on my simulator racing for a bit. But once I picked my racing back up, we left it a bit, and then I started driving in on my simulator again, and I've just not had that habit of getting into a simulator driving style and a car and a real life driving style.
Okay, all right. Wiry Supreme, what about you? What made you make that transition? If you already made it, and if you didn't, are you thinking about it? And if you're not thinking about it, why are you not thinking about it?
I just recently made a transition to a wheel and a pedal. Okay. Because of controller, even though you can turn off auto assist, you can be fast, it's not consistent as the wheels and pedals. So it's not consistent. So that's why I bought a new one. And now I'm slowly trying to perfect every lap with position and keep practicing.
All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick 3 people to answer this next question, because this shit can get into a rabbit's hole of information. I'm going to go ahead and go with Brian, Carlos, and Stinky. Definitely, because I think they are a little bit more techie when it comes to this. But when we talk about getting a sim, like you're moving outside of the console, like Xbox and PlayStation, they've already configured these internals, these electronics. It's packaged up, and that's what you get. So Starting with you first, Sticky, and then ending with Brian. Carlos, you'll be in the middle. What are you looking for in a workstation, in a machine to definitely, what are you personally, like, what is your personal quirk first? What are you first wanting to do to your machine in order to establish something that's reliable for you in sim racing?
So I think it's money to meet. So there's, even with like the new game, the F122, you can set up the game in which you can run this on a pretty old machine. So your machine doesn't even have to be insanely good. It just has to be, it has to meet that minimum with a little bit of headroom. So yes, I would say it's more about configuring the game to fit the machine you have. You can use all kinds of machines. So like I've configured mine, I changed it a bunch. So just changing the settings in the game, you have a lot more freedom when it comes to a PC over the consoles and stuff. But there are rigs that are made for the consoles that are still good, and there's a lot of guys that drive in it.
Okay, so Carlos, let me ask you this, because Stinky makes a good suggestion, which I'm thinking like you get a rig, you probably want to just get a PC. But I think Racer X210 has a rig Logitech with Xbox. So Carlos, what is it that, because you were talking about 1080p and, scan rates and processors, what is it that you personally look for as a priority when you started picking your machine in order to facilitate your sim racing?
For me personally, it's maximum game graphically, because the depth perception is very important. If you have resolution, it's kind of, where is it, a 50 mark? Or, it's kind of render your vision. And then that's pretty much it. And as far as the rig goes, what you want, if you want to get a setup, it's a lot of $200 setups there, and I've been through them all, and they're flaky and they squeak. And you want something like real next level racing, they have some setups. You're gonna have to spend like $1,000, but what you want is solid. Is when you're there, that feedback and that is gonna vibrate everything. Things are gonna fall off. You want something solid. Something steady. That's the very important.
Got you. All right. And Brian, what is it that you think are priority key things that people need to be aware of before they just go to these sales that happen and just buy a PC and then think that you got what you need? What are some things that they should be looking for?
Yeah. So I think the first thing you need to make sure is that you actually have a decent graphics card. Okay. Doesn't have to be anything crazy special, but if you have like a 3060, that'll give you enough overhead where you can play pretty much any game that's out there right now. Okay. I currently have a 2070 Super. It's a decent card, but it's not like the best you can get. And because it's not the best, I don't run my F1 settings to max.
Gotcha.
Like I'm not turning on all the textures and reflections and everything.
Okay.
Because I try to maximize my frame rate and my depth. Just like Carlos is saying, you want to see far and you want it to refresh quickly.
Okay.
So as long as my machine has the minimum capabilities to get me over 120 frames per second on low quality settings, then we're good in my opinion. I would prefer more, because you want as much immersion as possible if you want to be able to turn on all the settings. But it's not 100% necessary. As long as you can get high frame rate, then you're good. So graphics card is key, and then just make sure that the rest of your system doesn't like bottleneck you. You can't run like a really great graphics card and then like an i3 processor. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that your system is, leveled out at least. But
like cooking, everything got to be balanced, not too much sugar.
Yeah, balance it. So like don't spend $500 on a processor and only $300 on a graphics card. That's you're gonna bottleneck yourself. So make sure that your system is balanced for your budget. If you got a little bit bigger budget, yeah, go a little bigger, but don't overdo it on one piece, because that's not going to help you.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so that's system wise, computer wise.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's see. This right here. Can everybody see that screen?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So explain to us why you have what you have, what all is going on in there and why you purchased it. See, because to somebody else who might look at this shit, they're like, damn, I mean, why in the hell do he have a keyboard? He's got the damn mouse. He's got all the metal. Like, explain to this why you have this whole wraparound screen. You even got a mic up there. So just give the people a little understanding of what's going on here. And then Joshua, you be next because you sent me also a photo.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I'll start off to say you don't need all this. You don't need all this at all. Back when I first started doing like legitimate sim racing, it was, my son wasn't even born yet. So it was over 14 years ago. I was doing iRacing.
Okay.
And I had a Logitech G29 mounted to my desk, and I was sitting in a kitchen chair.
Oh shit.
And I did that, and I was top 1% in iRacing. So, you know, what Josh has right now, like that's plenty to get the job done, as long as your PC is okay. And, you know, as long as you can see everything and everything refreshes fine, that's plenty. This, what I have right now, is because I love it. It's my one and only like hobby, really.
Okay.
And so any extra money I have kind of goes into my hobby, and this is it right now. So there are reasons I chose what I did, though. For example, the pedal set I have is probably the best pedal set I've ever owned in my entire life, and I've owned quite a few different ones. It has a like actual hydraulic pedal on it. So you got master cylinder and everything. So it feels a lot like a real brake pedal when you're pushing on it. And it's pressure based, not potentiometer based. So it's not based on where the position is, but based on how much pressure I put into it.
Okay.
So that actually helps me be more consistent with braking. It's definitely a huge help, but it's, again, not necessary because you can learn on either system. But for me, the immersion and the consistency I can get out of this setup is what made it worth it. My actual wheelbase, which you can't see in this picture because it's back behind mounted to this thing.
Yes.
It's a SemiCube 2 Pro. So it's direct drive. It's like super smooth. It's got a lot of power. I have to turn it down to like 15% of its available power because otherwise it'll rip my arms off.
So explain that a little bit, because some people might not understand why this wheel rip your arms off.
Yeah, well, okay. So there's my wheel, if I max it out, it can get up to 29 Newton meters of force. And also the speed at which it can move is, I don't even know how high. It's ridiculous because the actual motor itself actually comes from like professional grade CNC machines where they spin at, 100,000 RPM and they're like drilling through metal. So like they're the real thing. So if you're driving on iRacing, you have it all turned up, full max settings, and you crash into a wall, this thing will just rip real hard. So I actually have an emergency stop button, which you can actually see there.
Yeah, I saw that. I said, why the hell does he have an emergency stop button?
So that emergency stop button is if your wheel starts going crazy, you can hit that with your leg or whatever, and then it'll immediately turn off the wheel.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So again, this wheel is overkill. I think the pedals are more of a benefit than the wheel are for me.
Okay.
But the smoothness is just nice. And then the actual steering wheel that I have attached to this, I spent way too much money on. But I wanted something that made me feel like I was in an F1 car. So my steering wheel's 100% carbon fiber. It has, dual clutches and the paddle shifters, all the buttons and mappings I can imagine. Screen is completely customizable for whatever I want.
So about to put you on spot just a little bit. I got to put you on spot for a second. Okay, like just in pedals and steering wheel, what is somebody a roundabout park looking at? Because you talking about a goddamn master cylinder on a game pedal system. Yes.
Okay, the pedals, $1,200 to $1,600.
That's a real box pedal system for my Integra, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially.
The steering wheel base is like $1,400. This particular steering wheel was almost $2,000. The full carbon fiber. So it's a lot of money. I think I put $6,000 into just the rig itself. That's not including my computer.
All right. Okay. So hold your baller status right there for a second.
Yeah.
Let's go to Young Bagambian and Carlos. I'm gonna come to you. All right. So let me bring this up real quick because I think we got it right here. All right, so Young Gambi, tell us what's going on in your blue light room setup right here we got going on.
So those are just LEDs that alternate, I guess. But we've got so it's a play seat, simple play seat, Logitech G920, a simple 144 hertz monitor up top.
Okay.
That's why I actually used to race on. I only use that one monitor to race on.
Okay.
The one on the left is for like extra information, I guess.
Okay.
The pedals, they come with the Logitech wheel, but they're not very immersive, I guess. This is like the cheap sim racing way to go, I guess, because there are so many better out there. And this is like the beginner level, so just getting into it, learning where you are before you put a lot of money into it.
Got you.
So it does the job. It's not as sturdy as Brian's is because he's got full metal frame that holds the whole thing.
He peeped all your shit, bro.
So it's fine. It does the job. I don't need anything more for now in the moment because nothing's broken, nothing's not working. So it's
So I had that exact same seat that he has.
Yeah.
Recently, I gave it to my other roommate, and then Stinky here, he has that exact same seat too. So
and that's something that I'm gonna ask you about after this, because that is something I wanted to know. I wanted to talk to you all about seating because ergonomics is very important. So let's table that because that's definitely going to be something important for us to get into, like more important than most people probably even think about. So Joshua, is yours on a base? Is yours sitting on some type of base, or is that just the floor and so a black mat up under there?
We've put a grippy mat so that I don't slide, so the whole setup doesn't slide around when I'm driving and like the pressure on the brake. So I don't slide around and stuff. So it's just a grippy mat. To stop that.
All right. So next I'm coming to you, Carlos, because I do have your setup as well. Because I remember you sent it to me sometime back. So just give me a second to bring your setup up. Let me see, Carlos. Where are you?
Okay, I can live right here.
All right.
Also, so this is.
There you go.
I got. I usually use, and this kind of slow you down a little bit because you inside the car and the view that you get is like you inside a Formula One, very docked in, but this is the share that I use. This is the rig. Like I was saying, is a very steady rig.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have anything like Brian though, but that's the Fanatec. This is the wheel, and it's a pretty steady. I mean, when I go in there, this thing does not move. And I also have the flight simulator set up over here. But yeah, even something like this, what I have here, I'm talking probably $7,000, just on this alone. So you can get up there. It's, I mean,
man.
Like I said, I enjoy, you know, what I do here. I work hard and I don't go out much or whatever. This is what I like to do when I can.
Okay.
And then you kind of spoil yourself a little bit. But in reality, this is overkill. All this stuff is overkill because if you're not racing at a EA world level and you're competing and you're getting money and sponsors and all that, but for us to race and have a good time and these races that you guys have, all you guys are very, very fast. I'm impressed with Wildcat, for Christ's sake, with a little controller. The guy is very, very fast.
Right.
And it's whatever. At the end of the day, you will adapt to what you have. A little Logitech, like a T2, you can get it for like $200. Get a nice setup, and that's it. I mean, it's about the rig. It's about. I mean, if you don't know how to use it, I mean, Wildcat beat me with a controller, and I'm
Right.
and I $6,000 rate. So you see what I'm saying?
Right. And I think that goes with life, period, right? Like you can buy all the expensive shit, but if you don't know how to utilize it, you don't train with it. Same thing with firearms, whether that's sim racing, whether that's anything. If you don't train with it, it doesn't matter. It's just a lot of money, and it's something that you don't even have the capabilities to utilize. So that is very important. And today's hashtag for the show is not like Brian. That's the new hashtag. It's not like Brian. We've heard that phrase more than once, so that's going to be the new hashtag for today's show.
No,
so
but Brian, and all that. You know how many hours when I used to race competitively? You know how many hours? And this a Logitech that he's talking about, I used to have 3 and 4 and standby because I go through them at every other race. And when do the pits, the shifter stop working. I change steering wheel and go. I mean, it is hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Now you get to an age like you work in it, you don't have the time to do it, but it is you know, to get at that level,
right.
You know, you earn that. So when people say, "Oh, broken hypocrite," or this and that, you know, you earn that. You want
right.
You just gotta, you know, burn your ass in a seat and make it happen.
Facts. And you can buy new asses on eBay, or you can get injections. That shit's real today. So don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? So now we're going to get into what's important, because since Carlos brought it up, asses need to be saved. Because I've spent a lot of time in the chair before, and when you get up, the blood flow starts returning. It don't feel so great. So Wiry Supreme, I'm going to start from bottom going to top. What kind of chair do you have, and what are you sitting in specifically when you're racing?
I mean, I play on a controller at the moment, so I just sit in the normal seat currently.
Okay, and what's the longest you sat in that seat before?
Not more than an hour.
Okay, no more than an hour. How do you feel about an hour? When the hour starts approaching, does your body tell you, or you just know, like, I've been past an hour before, I'm not doing it?
Yeah, I have to go after 1 hour. I'm like, I tell myself it's time to get up.
Okay, all right. Young Bagambi, how do you feel? Is that the original seat that you started with, or did you upgrade to that seat?
I've not changed one single thing for my setup. This is the original seat that I started with quite a few years back.
All right, so you started in the game in the seat. So how long have you sat in that seat before gaming?
Maybe 2 hours, maybe.
Okay, 2 hours. I thought it was going to be more than that. Okay, 2 hours. All right. Race X210. What kind of seat do you sit in, and how long have you sat in that seat?
Well, this is just a normal computer chair, but it has lumbar support for the lower back.
Okay, somewhat ergonomic. Okay, all right.
The longest I've sat in this seat has been about an hour and a half for like practice and stuff. But the longest I've actually been in a seat has been 8 hours straight when I used to drive 18-wheelers.
Got you. Okay, so real driving, real life, you done been in the seat for longer than that. Okay, so 18 hours driving in real life, but in sim racing life, 2 hours is it?
Yeah.
Because I got you. You got to get that load there. You know, we depend on you in the world. You got to get transportation is very important, import export. So I ain't blaming you. Big shout out to you. Wildcat, what kind of seat do you sit in when you race, and how long have you sat in that seat before?
I'm on the couch.
Damn. Okay, so you fluffy. You fluffy.
It's somewhat fluffy. I mean, it's somewhat of an old couch, kind of, sort of. Right. But I mean, it's comfortable, and like I'm sitting pretty much kind of how I'm sitting right now.
Okay.
It's more so because my TV is actually more so that way. So I'm more so kind of turned and twisted. But when once I actually sit and I'm there, I'm pretty much locked in. I'm not moving from that spot.
Okay. So what's the longest you sat there?
Longest I've sat right in this spot.
Playing the game, gaming.
I would have to say, let me see. Let's go back to February. It was probably, let's say, February. We're looking at probably about 16 hours because some new content had just dropped for my other game in love, which was made by the creators of Halo.
Right.
I've been playing that since 2014 when I got away from
Hold
Call of
on,
Duty.
wait a minute. So you sat right there in that spot that you sitting in right now for 16 fucking hours?
16, got up for about an hour, got food.
All right, just chill. Just hold
right
right
back down.
Okay, just hold right there. I don't want to have to call OSHA or no goddamn body. Just hold on right there. Stinky. What kind of the seat you had, Brian, kind of clued us in? What was your evolution through that, and how long have you sat in that seat gaming?
Yeah, so the play seat, probably over 3 hours. I don't like I've spent where we've done like a co-op career thing or just done a career together where we're just, just doing track after track. With the play seat, it's a little bit more comfortable. I used to race with it on the desk, and yeah, you're not doing more than 2 races in a row on that.
Gotcha.
But with a play seat, you could get away with a lot more laps. It's more comfortable. So you could do way more long sessions on it. Yeah.
All right. So Carlos, is the seat more comfortable that you have versus what some of these other drivers have? In your opinion, if you've experienced, like we got the couch, we got an ergonomic computer chair, Wiry Supreme say he's sitting in the chair. So have you had that experience, and compared to that, the seat that you have now, do you notice a vast difference in amount, not only how you can play, but your temperament while you're playing?
Yeah, it's the position. There is like the one that I have, and that rig is adjustable. You can adjust to a GT, but you can just follow one. Your legs are up. You're sitting back there with a curve, and they're made to be comfortable because you're simulating the actual cockpit of a Formula One car.
Okay.
Now, problem is not that I'm comfortable or not. It's the wheel. With that feedback, when these guys they got off the control and start getting that, your grip is getting hands, the feedback, your wrist. I almost broke my Suzuka when Suzuka used to have the long straights.
Right.
Now, Germany, Hockenheim. Remember, they used to be long straight and the chicane and the long straights way back. I had an accident there. To make a long story short, the car flipped in the air. When it hit, the right front tire hit first, and the wheel jolted so much, I almost broke my finger. So, yeah, so that is more like you have to get used to more like the wheel. That's more get tire you up, especially if you don't do it often enough. In my opinion, that's. But the seat is comfortable. I mean, I don't sit there more than, whatever the duration of the race is. And before the race, I do an hour or 2 of practice. But I guess I don't have the time that I would like to do this. But the wheel.
All right, Carlos, you broke up on us real quick, so I'm gonna go to Brian. Brian, before I go to you, you said 29 Newton meters earlier, right?
Yep.
So for all of you need the conversion, that's about 20 foot-pounds, not including the force that it's been. So if you grab a 20-pound dumbbell and you just drop it in your other hand just to get a sense of that, 20 pounds being thrown left or right in a rotational manner on your arms, on your forearms, on your hands, you're probably, if you've never experienced that, especially if you don't train for that, and you just play an hour of sim racing with that amount, depending on what type of situation you get into, I guarantee you, as somebody who works out, you're going to feel that shit the next day. I promise you, you're going to feel it. So Brian, with that being part of that, what kind of seat would you tell people to invest in if they're going to start seriously gaming? Because a lot of times we're playing short. Like we're playing short. We're not even playing 50% most time, like no time. So what would you tell people, like invest in this seat? And this is why, give them that information.
Yeah. So I currently have a track, what is it? Track racer.
Okay.
Something like that seat. It's good. It's comfortable. It's like a GT style seat, but I can lean it back so get more of an F1 feel. Wraps around you, holds you nice.
Okay.
So I think as long as your rig is solid and doesn't move and you're comfortable in your seating position, then that's good. There are lots of options out there. You can go cheap, like $350-ish for your metal frame with your seat and everything. Or you can go a little more expensive where you get up to like the $1,000-ish range. You can go much higher, but I wouldn't. There's no need for that. But yeah, you can, like mine, I think I spent about $800 on the actual like metal frame with chair. because I knew it would be strong enough for my wheel. So that's what you got to take into consideration.
Everything
Now,
matching. Everything
yeah,
matching. Remember that.
Yeah, everything exactly. Match it all up.
Okay.
So yeah, and I always turn the force feedback of my wheel way down.
Okay.
So my arms aren't killing me. Like my arms kill me more when I'm go-kart racing than when I'm doing this.
Facts.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I can sit in this thing for easy over 6 hours, no problem.
Okay.
Be comfortable. I get sweaty, but comfortable.
Matter of fact, before we move on to the final segment, I'm going to ask Joshua, what are you doing to train your muscles? Because you're karting as far as competing to go to Formula One and eventually, hopefully one day. What are you doing to train your body at your young age to get over? I mean, at your young age, you got a little cheat code because, you know, you might not get as sore, muscles might not fatigue as fast, but what are you still have to train muscular in order to like aid that? So what are you doing?
So I'm doing workouts every day basically. Okay. Push-ups, sit-ups, stuff for it's more my core and upper body strength that I need. The legs, you obviously still need to work out your legs. You need to balance out, I guess.
So we're skipping leg days. I got you.
Yeah, the brakes are obviously very hard in Formula cars and stuff. So I press ups, sit-ups, and then squats and stuff. I do that most every day basically.
Okay.
Just to make sure I'm staying healthy and stuff and exercising.
All right. So listen, people, this weekend you will be able to see these drivers and more competing. We're going to be Belgium GP. So I'm going to ask you all a question. It's going to be a very particular question and be very honest about it. I'm going to start with Carlos and work my way all the way down. Carlos, we're going to be at Spa. What sector are you having the most trouble in right now as you're trying to prepare yourself before we start the free practice session?
Okay, the S's before the back straight, I'm struggling there, especially when your tires just fall off a little bit. The car tend to kick out, and I'm working on that.
Okay. Stinky, Brian, I'm gonna close it out with you. Stinky, what sector are you having the most problems in?
I usually have it after the there's a left-hander that goes onto the long left. So there's a left into a longer left, and there's a wall right there. That one, you want to exit that really good because it gets you a good exit into a longer. So usually I lose a lot of time there. So I'd say that's where I lose a lot of time.
Okay. Wildcat, what sector are you having the most problems with or trying to solve before we go into Sunday's race?
My biggest trying to solve, I would say the beginning. I'm gonna say probably right around the beginning of sector 2 to near the end of sector 2. Once I get in the middle of sector 2, and I'm talking, you hit that, the honest, aside from turn 1, that one slow corner in sector 2 where it's almost like a hairpin and you feel like you leaning and about to flip over. That nice little, pretty much you coming off, once you get off a Radeon, off the long straight, off that camel straight, you hit that right-hander and then immediately follow into the left. It's trying to get myself on the right brake point, so that way the right brake point, the right turn-in point, so that way I can hit both apexes without losing too much time.
Okay.
And then that end of sector 2 coming into that long rundown into the bus stop chicane at the end before you hit start finish straight.
Okay.
It's two of those. It's more so apexing and finding my comfortable racing line to actually stay consistent right in those two areas where I'm losing a lot of time.
But listen, say something real quick. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's a very good example of the handicap of the pad, because that's a trail braking corners. That's a trail braking session, and it's very, 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 very difficult. I can imagine trying to utilize trail braking and trying to keep that middle curve, just to go efficiently through there without trail braking, and that's an example of where you need a wheel, because Spa to me is one of the most technical tracks in the Formula One calendar. But I just leave it at that.
Hey, that is good. That does that, but that's information people should know. Like to pop in with that is a gym for Wildcat to offer that up, being honest and transparent. That's what it's here for. Like Brian said, it's all about helping drivers get better, you know, so that everybody around you, because it's no fun just beating up on everybody and you don't have any competition. Well, to some people it is. Brian's not that type of person, and Stinky's definitely not that type of person. So that is very commendable. And then Racer X, what's your challenging sector of Spa?
For me, I would have to say Sector 2. Sector 1 and Sector 3 I feel real comfortable with. It's just that hairpin after you come out of the S's after the Sector 1. I'm still trying to find that sweet spot for the trail braking area. And it feels like I almost get it, and then I still go out too wide, or I cut too close, and then I clip the curb and I spin out. So Sector 2 is definitely one of those parts that make you think it's easy, then it's just a whole nother ball game.
What sponsorship signage is in that area? Doesn't matter. That's my sweet spot. That's where I'm going, in that corner. I'm going right into the wall. I'm just telling you, because what y'all are talking about doing as far as trying to get these apexes, I literally go into the wall. Brian seen it. Like one time Brian left the game. He's like, God damn it, Wolfpack, what the hell are you doing? I can't stay here all goddamn day. You got to catch him to the safety car, buddy. I'm just telling you, I spent a lot of time talking to sponsors on the racetrack. Just being honest. Just keep it real. Joshua, what's your troubling sector as it sits right now?
I don't really have a full sector. It's just the final bus stop chicane. So I'm finding it tricky to find the braking spot there. I can't really find a marker. It's not even on like pit laps when you have to pit in. You have to change the braking point because the pit lane's so tight on the right. So I'm struggling a bit there to find that braking point. But the rest of the track I'm fine with for now.
Okay. Wiry Supreme, what's your gremlin sector?
Mine is after the long straight, when you make the right and you make to the left and you turn right. That's where that specific area is where I'm having my trouble. It's because I normally used to run with traction control on, so on full, so I had very good traction. So now I turned it off because you gain a lot of time. So on that particular section, I'm having very trouble, which is why I want to ask Broken about throttle management.
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna go to Brian and let Brian share what is your troubling sector, Brian.
Well, to be honest, I don't have one at Spa.
God damn.
Stinky came into my room when he saw what track it was, and he was like, "Hey, you don't have to practice this week," because he knows I know this track like the back of my hand.
Okay.
It's my favorite track on the calendar.
All right.
So yeah, but I mean, I will say there are a lot of places you can gain a lot of time if you get it right.
Point out one. Maybe give us one.
Bus stop chicane.
Okay.
Bus stop chicane is one of them because your braking point going into it matters a lot, and then your exit out of it matters a lot. And there's a lot of elevation change going on there, so it's hard to get the power down right when you're coming out of it. It's hard to get the braking when you're going down into it and then back up. So it's a very tricky corner to get right, but when you do, you can gain half a second. So
all right.
And then also the pit exit is very tight as well. As the entry is tight, the exit's tight. And if you try to get the power down too quickly on pit exit, you can also spin it there, and you don't want to do that. So yeah.
So as most people, I think we got a pretty good sense is that sector 2 seems to be the puzzle piece for a good amount of people that we heard. And I guess if you really look at these sectors, you probably are able to tell why sector 2. And I think this constant radius turn turn 8?
Turn 8.
That constant radius is as wide as is. That's one area that we heard, and toward the beginning and the end of those S's coming in is another area. What about that 10 and 11?
A double apex left.
Yeah,
hand.
that double apex. Is anybody having is that area problem to anybody as well? Because I would imagine that double apex, like anything else, if you don't set the first one up right, then that second one's off.
Well, I predict people are going to lose their place at the end of the race for all the penalties going to get.
Yeah, that's It's penalty spot right there.
Yeah, you might get penalties, but you shouldn't have too much trouble getting through it.
Yeah.
Got you. So we should just probably ask the FIA if they can, from 10 to 11, if you just could make that yellow.
Ignore that.
Got you. Okay, we'll omit it. Got you. I got you. All right, Brian, why don't you take us out of here with 3 tips, since you asked for 3 last time, 3 tips for Spa that these drivers can use, that viewers can use, that might help them improve their times.
Yeah, well, number 1 tip is always just do laps. Do as many laps as you can do. Nothing beats seat time and, finding your braking points and learning the track. So that's number 1. Right. Number 2 is, when you start to feel comfortable with that seat time, turn off those assists, because you do find a lot of time. Yes, you have to be more careful on the brakes. Yes, you have to be more careful on your throttle application. But you're not going to have the game artificially stopping your throttle or adding more brake or whatever it might be. And you can find insane amount of time. Here at Spa, it's all about keeping momentum for your straights, because that's where you're going to get past or hold your position. So focus on your exits of your corners, especially into those long straights.
All right. Well, there's 3. And there's our time for this time. So we will be live streaming Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard U.S. time. Adjust your clocks for wherever you may be in the world. These drivers and other drivers will be competing. It is a nice show. They make it happen. They do all the glitz and the glam, and we are going to have an awesome time. So hopefully you meet us there. So I really appreciate all you drivers taking the time to offer people the information, to share your experiences. Hopefully it reaches out and it touches somebody and they understand, maybe have a better idea of what they want to do. But I think one key thing, I could say 2 key things is, if you don't practice with it, doesn't matter how much money you spend. And if you already don't like it at a certain level, don't assume that spending another $2,000 is going to help make you like it.
Yep.
You already have to have a passion for what you're doing at any level before you upgrade, like period. Like the raw basics, if you don't have passion right there, you're not going to have passion. The only thing you're going to have is resentment if you go spend $3,000 thinking that's going to make you happy. This is a real thing where it says money ain't going to make you happy. That's not going to do it. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in. That's it for this drivers meet. We will see you at Belgium. Peace. Thanks for watching another episode of Wolfpack Performance. Don't forget to check out some of my other content on Formula One and motorsports topics. Like, share, subscribe, and we go live on the weekends. See you soon.